Ron DeSantis, he's made some missteps. I don't mean when I say that for Florida necessarily, because I know that he doesn't care about that whatsoever. But it's possible that some of the moves he's made on the pandemic are gonna hurt the one thing that he does care about, and that is his political aspirations. So let's jump into the damage that he's doing to both and how. So first of all, how did he do this? Well, earlier this year, Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law that banned local governments, including school districts, from issuing rules about masking, despite a recommendation from the CDC that every school in the nation require masking to prevent students and staff from contracting and spreading the deadly virus. After several school districts said that they would keep their masking rules in place, DeSantis threatened to withhold the pay of district officials in punishment for their defiance, even though they were acting in the interest of public health. Now, since then, the Biden administration has said that it will aid those districts by paying for any penalties DeSantis imposes on them. So that is a good move. But what you have basically is Ron DeSantis turning all of his attention to these antibody like treatment plays that he's setting up, which seems perfectly fine. But when you are a part of this right-wing movement that has decided that, appealing to your base by stopping localities from doing something about the pandemic, that's more important than saving people's lives, I'm gonna have a problem with it, especially when your state ends up doing so poorly. Now, how does this impact what he really cares about himself? Well, 59% of those in Florida surveyed said they want their current governor to sit out the next presidential contest, including 61% of independents. Obviously, Democrats have no interest in him becoming president. And overall, it appears to actually be hurting his approval numbers. 47% of respondents said they approve of the governor's job performance, while 45% disapprove. It's still way too good, but his pre-pandemic high was 59% in March of 2019. Now his lowest was 41%. That was in July of last year when Florida was doing pretty rough when it came to the pandemic. Right now he's still a few points above that, but bear in mind that it is worse in Florida right now than it was at that peak back last year. More people in Florida are now catching the coronavirus, being hospitalized of it, and dying of it than at any previous point in the pandemic. And I want to show you some charts. Take a look at the cases. It is way above what it was in the past waves. Hospitalizations have far eclipsed any past wave as well. And even the deaths are now higher than they were at the worst points. And I want you to briefly really think about how much needs to go wrong for you to be able to exceed the worst suffering of last year. We have so many vaccinated people that we didn't have, including older people, even in places like Florida. There's a good number of people that are vaccinated, despite the lack of advocacy from the right wing there. A lot of people are vaccinated. We understand the virus far better than we did. We have access to masks. We know that we're supposed to socially distance. But despite that, Viviana, it's worse than it's ever been. That is madness to me that it could have gotten this bad.
I mean, it's a testament to what vaccines do and how we can prevent it. But keep in mind, they've also been anti-mask for a good year and a half now, and that is a wonderful method to prevent infections. One thing, going back to his approval numbers, gives me a little bit of faith, because it shows me that regardless of your political affiliation, I think at the end of the day, the majority of people want leaders whose ego doesn't dictate legislation. And that's what's happening with DeSantis. He's saying, wow, he's being stubborn about it. And I think that there are reasonable people out there who are saying, actually, let's take a beat. Let's not just be out there like a bully. And so they're getting turned off by this. Not to mention, obviously, the numbers of illness and death. And we have this, long-term COVID effects as well that people are still feeling. Trump went out there and said, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. But if you had COVID last year and you're still having trouble breathing now, you're starting to think it's a big deal.
Yeah, he might say that it's not a big deal, but how much do we see him? How much do we see his? I want to see him walk briskly.
He couldn't do that before, John.
Yeah, that's not a fair. I apologize. That was an anti-science thing to ask for. Honestly, it wouldn't prove anything. But anyway, so look, with Ron DeSantis, it's bad there. It is almost certainly going to get worse. The case numbers aren't as bad as they were a few days ago, but they're still drastically up. There's a lot of people in the hospital. And so what lesson has Ron DeSantis learned? Well, this is a headline from yesterday. Ron DeSantis wants Biden to follow Florida's lead on COVID. okay, I really do not want us to follow anything having to do with their lead on COVID because it's devastating. I don't want California to end up like that. And I just want to remind people of this Politico headline from last year, or from the very beginning of this year, how Ron DeSantis won the pandemic on Politico. And there's this whole section, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but about like, well, I don't know about these Democrats. They were talking about DeSantis and Death Santis, but now it's looking like he kind of won. Is he? Did he?
It's the same people that were arguing that Sweden figured it out as well. They want to say, well, you just need to lose 500,000 people, 1 million people, and then the pandemic's done. And the argument that, well, because this is a lot going on right now. You're vaccinated, you could still get it. You're vaccinated, you could still spread it. But what people are not looking at is the less people that get vaccinated gives the virus more of a chance to mutate and become other variants like the Delta. Who knows what's going to happen next? It'll become more aggressive and could even hurt us further. So it's this misinformation, this ego bravado from DeSantis is scary for the state of Florida. And my only hope is somehow this turns Florida blue. That's my only hope.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, like his numbers are going down once again. The connection between what politicians do, the effects of their actions, and what people think about them is so tenuous. It is incredibly frustrating, but we saw it last year in Florida. Things are worse now than they were then. So theoretically, like this should hang around his neck for the rest of his career. We'll see. That would be the barest minimum justice considering so much needless loss of life. But we'll see. We'll see. It seems to be affecting him now. And I don't know, maybe if he starts to think that this might hurt him in 2024 running for the presidency, if he somehow comes to that conclusion, that might be the only thing that gets him to actually take this seriously. And that's what's needed to save so many lives in Florida.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.